Hi everybody, it's me Bianca Valerio and welcome to Luxembourg. It's actually my very first time to be here in Luxembourg, and of course, first things first, every time our family arrives to a certain country, a certain city, the first thing we do, a walking tour. Not just any tour, but a walking tour, because usually in Europe, you are going through a lot of old towns where cars are not usually allowed. So mostly everything, as you can see, is all pedestrian. And for me, that is really the best way to actually get to see the sights. So first things first, we are to meet our guide at this plaza right here. So this statue, or rather this monument right here, pretty much symbolizes Luxembourg in a nutshell. There are actually two statues that you can see up close. One guy is like holding like I think a lumberjack or something, like a weapon on his left arm, and basically it represents steel. Steel is like the number one industry back in 1903 or 1855 when this monument was built. And then the lady over there, she's actually like fixing like some flowers. So apparently roses was also the number one export flower from Luxembourg. You know, it's exported all over the world. We're talking about at least 287 breeds of roses, which is pretty spectacular. So those two. And then there are two guys who are right above the heads of these three guys right there who are drinking. They are the two guys that composed the national anthem of Luxembourg, which is inscribed on this tower right here. There are a couple of words that basically talks about like saying that we have the right to be who we are, like no fear. And speaking of no fear, you actually have a lion right at the very top, which is the symbol of Luxembourg, which is a lion. So going back to that statue right there. So apparently when Luxembourg started, it was in about 963. That's the year 963. And it started with a count named Siegfried. So fast forward 963, and then he was making all these rules, and then he was basically saying that anytime there's import or export, you need to be taxed. If you want to come visit, you visit this place, you need to pay. However, in the 12th century, there was no male heir. So what to do? And that is why we have right here the city hall. Okay, so you see this long picture like right here. The seventh carving is actually a woman, and the woman who has a crown. And it's the very first time in history where during medieval times that rather than a count, it became a countess. And this woman actually revolutionized a lot of things, because what she made Luxembourg was a free trade zone. What does that mean? Like if you want to import and export, not to worry, just come in, like not necessarily like it's free, but you don't need to pay a toll to be able to do your business, which obviously is an awesome thing, right? So this plaza over here, every main like city center always has a plaza, and this is actually called Place d'Armes. So the signs usually, it was in French, because the French were here until the 17th century, end of 1600, and the letters right below it is like their local language. So according to Luke, our tour guide, it's not always the literal meaning right below, but they actually just show two languages, the French and the local language. So what are some other things that are helpful to know about Luxembourg? Apparently it is the only country in the world that is still run by a Grand Duke and Grand Duchess, the only one in the world. Still continuing with the tour, it's still this logo over here. It's kind of like so many things like inside. It's all like fromage, all cheese. And then you see right here these bottles. So I had just learned that the word cremant, C-R-E-M-A-N-T, is champagne, because apparently champagne can only be used in France in the same way that cava and prosecco can only be used in prosecco, but technically they're all like different counterparts of one another. So champagne is actually cremant. Now we're moving on to a more giant square, giant plaza. And that over there was a Franciscan monastery. So originally this right here, like all the monks actually used to, they would walk around the square and they would, you know how like monks, they have that uniform and then they have like a belt and then there's a knot in their belt, and that knot is basically what inspired the original name of this plaza. Fast forward to this guy over here, his statue, that is Willem II. He's the son of Willem I. So Willem I was the king of the Netherlands and the Grand Duke of Luxembourg. Okay, so for those of you who actually want to get married here in Luxembourg, this is where you're probably going to be going to. This is the city hall, Hotel de Ville. Actually, a lot of people actually think that it is a hotel because it says Hotel de Ville, but it's actually the local city hall. So this is the school that the Jesuits started called Athenaeum, hence the name Ateneo. So it all started here in 1594. Okay guys, so it started with the school, right? Athenaeum. Apparently there were about 200 students, and those 200 students, when it started, 1594, every student, the culture was, before they go to school, they always had to go to church first to hear Mass early in the morning. So this right here used to be a very simple chapel. 200 students. But then as time went by, when they had garnered 500 students, they were like, okay, we kind of need to make the chapel or the school bigger. So they needed money and they needed a sponsor. Hence come this symbol right there. So that is a royal family crest of Albert and Isabella of Spain. And they were the ones who gave, I think, 50% of the money in order to build a bigger church. So these two right here, one, that is St. Peter, like in the Vatican, like he holds the keys. And then this guy over here, that is Paul, and Paul is holding a sword. Inside the church, by the two doors, which we're going to see up close, are there two of the 7 founding fathers of the Jesuit order. So that's Ignatius and Xavier. Okay, we are now going into the church, just so you guys can see. As you exit this church, you're going to see the statue right there, which is pretty much the Greek goddess Nike. So she has her skirt blowing. Usually, like each Greek goddess or any saint or what statue, they always have a certain pose or certain outfit that you know them for. So obviously the church was not happy that once you exit this church, you see something that is not Catholic. When the Germans came, Hitler was very, very prolific. He was famous for looting like art or anything valuable from all the countries that they had conquered. Back in the war, the Nazis had actually confiscated, or rather stolen, that statue. It wasn't found, or rather it was missing for about 44 years. And then eventually when the war was over and they were looking for it again, they actually found it in a stadium of some sort, and it was like divided into 3 pieces, and then they decided to put it right back. But this time it is encrusted in gold, and who cares if it's in front of the church? It is a beautiful thing of beauty glistening in the sun. All right, so more trivia about the church. So, you know, like in 2019, the famous Notre Dame in Paris had actually burned, right? Well, this Notre Dame right here had also burned. Well, at least this tower did burn. Back in 1985, when Pope John Paul II was scheduled to come and visit, 30 days before his visit, that tower had burned. Now we are walking. That is actually one of the things that I noticed. It's so nice because, like, other than it being so pedestrian friendly, there's not a lot of cars. Well, there's actually a reason for that. That is very intentional. It's not because it's not a busy city. It is because you see this bus over here? Free. Every single public transport that you find here in Luxembourg is absolutely free. The train, the tram, the funicular, the bus, except for a taxi. Everything is free. And then that way, the air is also cleaner, very pedestrian friendly, and lesser cars. And all the spaces here can be allotted for something else other than just parking lots. So walking distance just from the church, this used to be the house of the very first president, and then I think like became a mayor. There's so many like titles to remember, but basically, yeah, the first president of the government. So if you take a look, there are certain buildings that actually have like a label on them, just sort of like a history of what it was. Like we saw, that was the former residence of the first president of Luxembourg. And then the buildings that actually surround us right here are like different government buildings. It is so peaceful here. Really incredible. What a great place to like raise your kids. Look how chill it is. Like you can literally just walk right beside, right in front, the House of Parliament here in Luxembourg, which is pretty extraordinary. You can just walk right up the stairs and voila, you are right there. And what is also right here, see this on the ground? Luxembourg was the second country in 1919 that allowed women to vote. So that right here, so right across me is the Parliament House, and right across it is a chocolate house. And they have 87 flavors of hot chocolate. And how do you do that? They actually sell it in the form of a spoon, and then you dunk it in either milk or hot water, and then you stir it until like you're done with it, and then voila, you've got yourself a flavored chocolate drink. Delicious. So the Grand Duke, this building here, he pretty much works here. The reason why there's probably no security right now, because there is no flag that is flying right now, which means to say that he should be here. But because it's August, a lot of Europeans are actually on vacation. And currently, apparently he is in Biarritz in France. So that, again, going back, that is the official symbol of Luxembourg. That is the lion. So there's red, there's blue, and then there's white. So the country actually has two flags, okay? We're actually seeing it right now, where it's stripes, blue and white, and then it has a lion in the center, which pretty much represents airplanes, aeronautics, land, water, sea, pretty much all like the different types of modes of transportation, I reckon. And then of course they have their other normal flag, which is the one that we all know. This one over here, you see this? Do you see it? It's a shoe. So in a lot of places in Europe, different buildings were like different guilds, like kind of like labor unions, different unions. So depending on what you wanted to buy, in this case a shoe, so you would go to this place to buy your shoes. And then of course, in order to buy shoes, you would need money, which is why this street over here is called Rue de la Money. And this side right here, all of this, UNESCO protected. But this side right here, not so UNESCO protected, which is why you can tell graffiti is allowed in this street. Over here though, nah. Okay, so this building is another guild. Earlier we saw shoes, right? So this one has a bell. So of course, bells back in the day, in fact, when you go to the souvenir stores, there's always bells that you can buy. So bells were really important. Number one, it was for churches. Number two, it was for the entrance of the city. And then number three, of course, nowadays, it's for our own home, to prompt that somebody is going in and going out. This place right here is basically where Luxembourg started. This is like pretty much like the selfie spot here in Luxembourg. Okay, so first things first. this right here. Remember that date I told you, 963? That's when Luxembourg was founded. Yes. And then you see this bridge over here. So remember I told you that there was a toll that Sigmund guy, like that Count Sigmund said that for you to enter Luxembourg, you have to pay a toll. And that was like the toll gate right over there, and that was the first bridge over there, so that before you could actually enter the country. And that's why there was a canal over here, which pretty much like they could stop ships from actually crossing in or not. Now this river right here, just imagine this whole plain right here, zero, nada. This river was actually dug through. It's a man-made river. And what's even more interesting, so you have like different levels. So you have this level over here at the very bottom, and then there is a second level right over here. That is the Spanish level. So apparently when the Spaniards came, they had elevated, and then the way that they had actually done it, it's sort of like, it was sort of like the walls weren't fortified as strengthened as the top level there, so it's more rounded. And then when the French came, which is the highest level, it now has like corners. It's because like 200 years later, when the French came, it was more fortified, because you're thinking like they had big guns, they had like cannonballs and all that, so they really needed to have like strong walls for all that rebound when there was war and whatnot. Crazy. Okay, so you know how like you do all these different geotags wherever you are, like on Instagram or whatever social media or in Google? Well, if you actually type Luxembourg and the 0.0 location of where it would situate you, it would be right here, exactly where that is, where Luxembourg is. Interestingly enough, my daughter just shared with me that for the Philippines, it's a 0.0 location for the Philippines is in Intramuros, which in a way kind of looks similar, because it's also our old ancient walls, fortified walls. It's also a military fortress. Ah, interesting. So I'm now actually walking across the point from where I was to actually get to that 0.0 point location of where Luxembourg is located. So earlier I was saying that public transportation is actually free here, which is great, and that doesn't only apply to locals, it actually applies to tourists like you and me as well. However, if you wanted something that wasn't just public transport, but you wanted something that was also tourist friendly, in the sense that it was translated into 7 major languages, where it gave you a little trivia of different spots that you could stop on. There's actually like this cute tram that actually, I'm showing it on the screen right now. It's super cute. That has payment though. But in a way, it's sort of like you don't have to walk. You can go around the city. It's in a language that one of which you probably understand, and it's sort of like a guided tour bus. If you guys know anything about sound frequency, sound healing, the science of sound, or the Schumann resonance, there's a certain frequency that the earth resonates with. Like, you know how like everything like has a sound, everything has a frequency, even if you can't hear it. And the Schumann, I think it's a 436, I can't recall, but because I listened to so many, there's 936, there's 888, there's like 169 or whatnot. Now, Robert Schumann is the guy who discovered the Schumann resonance, and he was actually born somewhere right there in the back. I'm actually pointing to it with that spire in the back of the church, and he was actually Luxembourgish, and then eventually he became French. I love that. Actually, I do have a vlog from the very first hospital in the ancient world, Asklepion, which is in Turkey. The things that they use, the methods that they use, there was water therapy, there was performance therapy, and there was also sound therapy. So there's a lot of like, you know, secret passageways, secret walkways that if you know, you know, to let you know, like, that was like the entryway into the city, like sort of like the entrance gate. That walk was pretty easy. There weren't a lot of stairs or whatnot, except maybe through the fortifications and the old part in the military fortress, old walls. But if you don't want to go down, you don't have to. And look, we're back here where the parliament is. It's about almost 7 p.m. Now the tour was only supposed to be 2 hours, but that's usually what happens with us, where sometimes when a tour guide can see that, I don't say we, but me, I'm like so interested to know everything. And so the tour guide shares a little bit more and extends more time. In some cases, they're more than happy to just extend without any charge. And then there are some cases, because you do extend, you pay extra. Honestly, for us, it doesn't matter. In a way, a tour guide is like a host. So I respect the talent and the skill, the level of knowledge, the way they're able to execute in a timely manner, in a nice manner, because in a way they are ambassadors of their city, of a certain place, a certain culture. So, whew, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Just had to say goodbye to Luke there. So I'm Bianca Valerio until our next destination around the world. Goodbye, everybody.